It's known as the happiest place on earth, where families can go to have fun, feel safe, and forget the problems and stresses of the real world. Disneyland and Disney World. However, despite the general public's awareness, there is a very long list of accidents, many of them fatal, that have occurred at the Disney parks. These are 6 instances of tragic accidents that have happened at Disney parks.
Number 1. In 1996, Mickey's Starland was renovated and reopened with a new cartoonish look and the brand new name Mickey's Toontown Fair. This is the smallest of the 7 lands in the Magic Kingdom and is basically an area designed for the younger kids visiting the park, and is the best area for meeting characters. Of all the attractions in Toontown, Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin is the most popular, but also the site of one of the most gruesome accidents in Disneyland's history. 4-year-old Brendan Zucker, who was seated in the far right side of one of the taxis, fell out of the car while it was in motion and got caught underneath the car behind it against the tracks. He suffered severe leg, arm, and spinal injuries, cardiac arrest, and brain damage as a result. Shockingly, Disneyland staff did not call emergency services for a full 5 minutes after the accident. Rather, they notified Disneyland security first instead, as that was actually company protocol at the time. This incident led to Disney changing this policy. While Zucker did survive that incident, he never fully recovered and died at the age of 13 in early 2009. Number 2. In 2003, Marcelo Torres, aged 22, was waiting online along with countless other thrill seekers for one of Disney's most recognized attractions, Thunder Mountain, not imagining that he would be riding the train to his death. Marcelo was seated in the front car of the train, right behind the fake locomotive. The ride was climbing through a tunnel when the locomotive lost the assembly that carries the rear wheels, causing the car to strike a tunnel roof. The first passenger car then ran under the airborne locomotive, killing Torres. The impacts crushed his chest and head, causing a very graphic death, and a traumatic and painful memory that the passengers behind the car of the train are likely to never forget. Number 3. Tom Sawyer's Island is an artificial island in the Magic Kingdom surrounded by the rivers of America. Disney refers to the single artificial river as the Rivers of America because the waterway that surrounds Tom Sawyer Island is meant to represent several important rivers in American history. The island references Mark Twain characters with various structures and caves. The only way to get on and off the island is by a small wooden raft. In June of 1973, when 2 kids missed the last raft of the night off the island, things took a hellish turn for the worst. 18-year-old Bogdan Delarot and his 10-year-old brother were on Tom Sawyer's Island, and they didn't have intentions of leaving with the group on the raft. Staying overnight on Tom Sawyer's Island seemed like a thrilling idea, at least only for a few hours, as staying on the island alone soon proved to be boring, so the 2 brothers decided to swim across the river without alerting anyone to their presence. A serious flaw in their plan was not considered until tragedy struck. The younger brother did not know how to swim, so his older brother attempted to carry him on his back while swimming to the shore. He made it only halfway across the river before giving out and falling below the surface. The younger brother was saved by a ride operator, but Bogdan drowned and his body was not found until the next day. Number 4. Disneyland's monorail is the quickest and best form of in-park transit, and having debuted in 1959, it's been around a long time. In fact, it actually opened just 4 years after the park's opening. Just 7 years after the monorail's opening, however, in 1966, A terrible, easily avoidable accident took the life of a high school student on his graduation night. The high school student was a 19-year-old senior named Thomas Guy Cleveland. Thomas was trying to sneak into the park by climbing onto the monorail tracks. Two security guards spotted Thomas trying to climb up the tracks, and despite their constant warning yells telling him to get off and that there was a monorail coming, he either ignored or didn't hear them. He was subsequently struck and killed by a passing monorail. Number 5. The sailing ship Columbia attraction at Disneyland is a full-scale replica of a ship built in 1773 called the Columbia Rediviva. The attraction allows guests to wander freely around the massive replica as it sails around the scenic rivers of America. It's supposed to be one of the more calming and relaxing attractions at the park, which makes this accident just that much more tragic. This accident also marked the first time a visitor died at Disneyland without any personal fault. The accident had nothing whatsoever to do with the guest and everything to do with those of the park. There was a rope fastened to a metal cleat on the hull of the ship when it was docked. As it turned out, the cleat was not strong enough to actually halt the ship's forward momentum. It was only strong enough to hold the ship in place while people got on and off. The problem was that the staff member responsible for docking the ship was never given the proper training for operating the boat. As the rope pulled against the cleat with the boat in motion, it tore loose and flew straight to the line of people waiting to get on the boat. The cleat struck 3 people, an employee and 2 visitors, killing Lon Fee Dawson and severely disfiguring his wife. Number 6. America Sings was an attraction at Disneyland that opened in 1974 and closed in 1988. It featured a showbiz pizza type cast of audio animatronic animals that sang songs from various periods in America's history. It was similar to the Carousel of Progress in that the whole seating area is part of one big carousel, and when the carousel spins, it moves the audience to different sections of the show with different animatronic characters. In 1974, the first year of operation for the show/ride, an employee was killed while working the attraction. Deborah Stone, who was only 18 years old, was a hostess at the time, and her job was to greet each guest who entered the attraction. She had just recently started working at Disneyland in order to help pay for her college tuition. After ushering a new group of people into the ride, she got too close to the theater wall as it began to move. The moving walls started to crush Deborah against the stationary section of the stage. Everybody in the carousel could hear the gut-wrenching screams, and some could even hear the sickening sounds of bones cracking. But by the time the ride was stopped and help arrived, Deborah had already been crushed to death. The scene was one of the most graphic Disney had ever seen to date.